Now recognizing the ranking member for opening statement. I yield to the ranking member for an opening statement.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Distinguished gentlelady from California, Mary Bono.
Gentlelady is recognized. Chair now recognizes the lady from California is recognized.
I'm pleased to introduce Congresswoman Mary Bono, former U.S. Representative for California's Inland Empire and Desert Region from 1998 to 2013.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Welcome to Sagely Speaking. I'm your host, Mary Bono, and I'm so happy you're here. On this podcast, I hope to bring you insightful conversations with a variety of guests from all walks of life, people with stories, wisdom, and perspectives that inspire and inform. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe, and if you feel inspired, leave a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more listeners like you. Now let's dive into today's conversation. Joining me today is a very fascinating guest, and I'm so thrilled she's here. She's got a story that is just, I don't know, inspirational, daring, courageous, maybe crazy too, sometimes. Yeah. Sarah Murphy is a first-generation, get this, bison rancher based in Durango, Colorado. She entered ranching after building a career first in consumer marketing and later in advocacy for regenerative agriculture and conservation. She began this business in 2016 when she purchased her first 15 bred bison. Not too many people I know can say, hey, I started a business by buying 15 bison. Sarah, we're so glad you're here. Thank you for willing to come share your story and challenges and everything that goes into owning a bison ranch. So you founded, it was Gleason Bison, and you've recently changed the name. Tell us a little bit about your bison ranch.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. It's really an honor to be part of your podcast and the good work that you're doing. And I'm just really honored to be included. Like you said, it's on about 900 acres in Southwest Colorado, outside of Durango, Colorado. And it is a bison operation. So the bison here live 100% of their life on grass until they are processed and turned into meat. I sell calves to other bison ranchers. I own a meat label, Murphy Legacy Bison, and I ranch this piece of land. So, yeah, it's quite a bit different than you said as a director of marketing for a number of different companies and not coming from agriculture. My father used to tease me saying, we don't know what we did to you to make you want to be a farmer. But here we are. So I operate the place, everything from building fence, fixing fence. If there's an issue, I'm the person, and all the way to the creation of the meat company, which has been a really great learning opportunity also.
How many people run your ranch? I know this
only
answer.
Myself. Yeah, only myself.
You're thinking, Mary, I've told you this before, but I just wanted to bring this up. And I have been out there with you in the back of your truck, in the middle of your herd, and I just want to remark on this. You are, I don't know how tall you, 5'6"?
I'm almost 5'5".
5'5", okay. The bison know the difference too.
Yeah.
And my guess is you weigh, I don't know, 115, 120 pounds. And you don't need to answer that. That's my guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's around there.
It's around there. You are out there with these huge, monstrous animals. I mean, they're gorgeous, they're majestic, but they're also a little intimidating. And I think about you doing this, and the reason I really wanted to bring you on is, and I know you know this, there's so many people at one point in their life who dream of doing what you did. And that is saying, screw this, screw the man, screw the corporate world, screw this job, whatever, screw everything I'm mad at, and let me go do something exhilarating, romantic in the romantic sense of life. Let me go do this. And you've done that. Any regrets?
No regrets. And as a general belief, I don't believe in regrets. Just as a general ethos. Has it been hard? Yeah. And stressful and terrifying. And have I worked harder than I've ever worked in my life? For sure. But no regrets. I think a lot of things are scary and a lot of things are new. And for me, Mary, honestly, I have to say that I am not where I am today on my own. there were a number of people who taught me, opened doors for me, talked to me, explained to me, gave me opportunities to learn, are on speed dial. I feel like the next generation is not going to know what speed dial is actually. Is in a favorites list on my phone, that I can call because I didn't know anything. And when I mean anything, I mean, I did not know how to build an H brace on a fence. I did not know how to drive a tractor, let alone, change hydraulic fluid lines on a tractor myself. When they blow on a Sunday and you have to use that tractor to do something, vital. And so I am here because I have an incredible community of people that I've met along the way. And it's definitely my intention to pay that forward in whatever way possible in the future. But yeah, I was probably, out of undergrad, sitting in a office 7 or 8 years in, thinking to myself that I was not meant to work at a desk from, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday for the rest of my life. And more than that, I had this deep desire that my work be connected with nature in some way, with animals, being outside. I worked in the, as a typical, 20-something-year-old Colorado kid, I worked as a raft guide on the Arkansas River, and I was a ski bum for a while in Vail and Keystone. And I know it's not common we think of the outdoor industry, and the people who participate in the outdoor industry, and then we think of this demographic of agriculture and ranching, and that's not often a combined demographic. But I really believe that if you love playing in the outdoors, it's also such an honor to be able to steward a piece of land and the wildlife that is part of that land. And so for me, it was a pretty, easy shift of, I didn't want to go back into working in the outdoor industry per se. However, I definitely wanted to work in the wilderness and in the outdoors. So here we are.
Well, we have a common thread in that you are a political science major and went to Washington, D.C., and that was part of the desk job I think you rebelled against.
Yeah.
Politics is not for me.
It's a great experience. No regrets. Great experience.
But Sarah, why bison? I mean, okay, why not go out and get a few little sheep or lambs or, for goodness sake, something small and dainty like a cow compared to a bison?
Yeah, and to be honest, Mary, there's nothing, anybody who listens to this, there is absolutely nothing wrong with other species. I'm not a specious. There's a lot of amazing roles and amazing things that you can do with other species as well. For me, it was never an and/or, it was always bison. So what that looked like was that's not totally true. Horses were my first love, as every other, young girl. I loved horses. And so I thought, shoot, maybe, I've watched the movie Man from Snowy River, where a guy makes a living out of rounding up brumbies and selling them to the army. Maybe I can raise horses and make money raising horses. And my partner at the time that I was with, he wasn't super on board with that idea. He thought that would be a very money loss endeavor, which, we'll leave that there. Who knows? But he did say, "What about bison?" And I thought, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like you said, how is someone like me supposed to raise these, 2,000 plus pound undomesticated, creatures that I know nothing about? However, I was curious, so I joined the National Bison Association. I started reading. They have this handbook 101 they send out. But more importantly, I started cold calling other bison ranchers in the state of Colorado and asking if I could come and learn, see their operation. And a number of them said yes. So I started visiting these ranches. And the first ranch I visited was Sweetwater Bison. It's a operation just outside of Glenwood Springs, small family owned, and the father of that family has since passed away, and his sons are now running it. But it was my first kind of up close look at what was possible with bison. And of course, this amazing family fed me a bison burger in their kitchen as we were looking at their herd outside the window. And I, was a little bit awestruck. But then my next experience of my first roundup working bison was not bad, but it was not romantic. It really gave me I always tell people, if you are interested in raising bison, you need to go and be with them and work them when they are, enclosed, because the way they operate when they are roaming freely out on the pasture versus how they behave when they are in a corral and being asked to do certain things is very different. And so it was another amazing operation still in existence, Eagle's Wing Natural Bison outside of Walden, Colorado, and it was fantastic. But I was cold and I was tired and I was stressed, and I had seen animals that were stressed because no matter how you do humane animal handling with bison, it's intense. It's very intense. They can jump 6 feet from a standstill. They can go through, steel guardrail. They are powerful, and it was very emotional, and but I just knew at my core that this is what I was going to do.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely amazing. I can't believe how courageous it is to just start something new, reinvent yourself entirely. And good for you. Were you always receiving support along the way? Do you have some naysayers, doubters?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge was at that time I was 28. I had no savings, so no cash capital, no livestock, no land, and no knowledge. And I was also about to embark on supporting my ex-husband on a 7-year journey from medical training. So I was going to be the, sole income provider for our family at that time. And so I didn't know. I didn't know what it was going to look like. If you would have looked at that, and many people did, their response was, there's no way that you are ever going to, be on a ranch raising bison and owning your own meat label. There's too many ginormous obstacles in the way. In fact, like you said, I did actually have a guy at a roundup once look at me and laugh and say, you're not going to raise bison.
Little lady.
Yeah, it was, to be honest, it was a, not to profile, but it was an older man that was, and he just looked at me and laughed and said, you're not going to raise bison. So, which is fine. I just truly believe deeply in my soul that with the right people and enough human creativity, truly anything is possible. And so I held on to this belief that if I continued to, manifest in real ways, talk about, build connections, continue to learn, constantly hunt for land and what land looked like, and just continue to push forward, that if it was meant to happen, I would meet other humans, other people who would help me forward on the journey. And that's truly what happened. So, it's definitely scary. If you are a person who is risk averse, you probably shouldn't be in agriculture or ranching at all. When I first purchased my first animals, the ranch manager of the 777 Bison Ranch, which gave me the opportunity to buy my first animals, he said to me, how does it feel? And, I thought, pretty terrifying, because now I have these, 15 animals. I don't know if they're going to necessarily live or die over the next year. I don't know if they're going to be pregnant next year. I just don't know. I can do my best to create the conditions, but it's just, I don't know. But I do believe also that the reality is, I think a lot of times in life, we think we know a lot of different things are going to play out, whether it's our jobs or our 401k or what we think we know what it's going to look like and how it's going to play out, and when we really don't. And so it feels and looks riskier than a lot of other jobs, and that's probably partially true. But at the end of the day, everything's a risk. So you might as well, be risky in what you love.
I just love your attitude. And what I find so refreshing, and hopefully people are picking up on this too. Well, first of all, your sense of optimism, no regrets. I also try to abide by that. Occasionally I do a lot of boneheaded things in my life that I end up laughing about them eventually. But this sense of, everything could go wrong. At the end of the day, you have to believe the talents that you have. And that talent is only made stronger by a belief in yourself and the no regrets motto, and being not afraid to fail. And I think you exude all of that. I think you should have Sunday services out at your ranch.
I probably should. I mean, it's not a bad place, but I think it's also a luxury to be able to fail, and I'll acknowledge that. If I always kind of tease that if I fail and, am homeless on the street tomorrow, I'll move back in with my parents. I'm lucky to be able to say that because, they'd let me come back for at least a little while. But I have that, sort of belief of if I crash and burn, the consequences are less dire than it could be for some other people. So I do want to acknowledge that is a very privileged position that I'm in, to be able to not fear failure. Of course, there's my ego that would be bruised, but the other part is just the persevering work. I think I read somewhere once that a lot of entrepreneurs or small businesses will fail because eventually the friction and the challenges just kind of override the benefit. And eventually people are like, this isn't worth it. It isn't worth the amount of friction and the amount of continual struggle. And I will say there is a lot of that in agriculture in general and in bison ranching. They are such incredible examples. The saying in the industry is that you can force a bison to do whatever it wants to do. And I have plenty of stories I could tell you about me trying to force them to do something they don't want to do. Including, I think I might have told you the story when you were out here, but I tried to push an animal down a part of the corrals so that I could preg check her and weigh her. And she wouldn't go, and she wouldn't go, and she wouldn't go. So I thought I would use my 3,500 dually truck, with, crash guard on the front, and I would push her down this part of the corrals. And she looked at the truck, and she looked down the alley and turned around and jumped on top of my truck. And
you didn't tell me that. Oh
yeah,
my.
yeah. She could see like a 6-inch space, and she wedged herself like right on top of the front of the truck, and she beat the running board off and beat the door all to heck. And it was a really interesting insurance conversation and claim. It was like a encounter with wildlife or something, like if you hit a deer. And it was like, sure, encounter with wildlife, we'll go with that. But the thing is that she still would not go. So she jumped on a truck, beat the truck to heck, and then she still would not go where I wanted her to go. The next day, she was the only animal left, and we just stepped back, shut everything down, stepped back, opened everything up, just was quiet. And 10 minutes later, she walked right through on her own. So bison are just such an amazing example of not being able to force things, as we have so many tools and technology and ability as, human beings to force things, to expedite things, to use, fertilizers and chemicals to force land to produce more, than it would on its own. Or we have technology that can force and literally bend, steel to our will. And I think sometimes we get in our minds that we can force things, and I'm definitely guilty of that. And that I think I can manifest and force outcomes. And the reality is that that's just not true. There is biology, there is nature, there is a natural order of a lot of things, including timing. And the bison are just a constant reminder to me that I am not all powerful because I just cannot force them to do something they decide they don't want to do.
We'll continue with our interview in a moment, but first I'd like to thank my sponsors. Lucy Pet Foods is the leader in gut health. Their formulas for life feature prebiotic, balanced fiber that nourishes your dog and cat's total health. Every purchase helps support the Lucy Pet Foundation, a 501c3 charity helping animals. Save 15% off your first order and use the promo code SAGELYSPEAKING, all one word, and you will get free shipping at lucypetfoods.com. If you're committed to tackling the opioid and addiction crises, then you need to be at the 2025 RX Summit. Use code SAGELY, that's SAGELY, for an extra $100 off. Join top experts and professionals as we share strategies for prevention, deflection, treatment, and recovery. Don't miss this chance to be part of the change. Head over to rx-summit.com to register now. That's rx-summit.com for an additional $100 off. Mothers for Awareness and Prevention of Drug Abuse, driving solutions to prevent drug abuse and overdose deaths by focusing on prevention through education and awareness. And now, back to our interview.
That can be an important reminder and sort of refreshing at a time where we're all so busy on our phones, our iPhones, our computers, our iPads, blah, blah, blah. And then to have to go, okay, wait a minute, slow down. I'm not in charge. And, bison take the wheel, I suppose, right? Like the Carrie Underwood song.
They do. And it's such a cool, I have such this amazing ability to see them work in symbiosis out here. I get to see when I move them and they cause vibration in the land. And then the ground animals like the gophers and the prairie dogs pop up from that rumbling. And then the predator hawks follow and hunt, those gophers and prairie dogs after the herd has left. And seeing huge herds of elk grazing in the same pasture as the bison and everything sort of working together. And that sort of to be part of that rhythm and that symbiosis is just incredibly, it's an honor, first of all, and it also makes it worth going and fixing fence at 10 o'clock at night during a blizzard. For example.
For example. That's a good opportunity for me to read a post you had on your Facebook page. And bear with me, if it's okay, to read your own words. It's the beginning of one of the many times of year where this work is hard. Freezing temps are hard. Snow, ice, cold machines, hard. Rounding up and working the herd, selling calves, hard. And that is if nothing is sick or dying or dead. When people say to me that what I do is hard, I don't disagree. This work is hard. Physically, emotionally, mentally hard. And that's okay. It's more than okay. In my experience, the hard things always pay off in the ways that matter most. So here's to doing hard things and letting it snow. Your own words 2 days ago. It was hard. It was a rough day. I think about you often.
And I'm not even post-holing around out here yet. I was thinking that day about, I had a calf that I chose, she was not being fed by her mom, and I chose to bottle, it's a whole nother story of how long it takes to catch a bottle bison, because it took her 4 days to be hungry enough to not be able to keep up with the herd. But anyways, finally caught this baby bison. I didn't want to shoot her, and so I decided to bottle feed her. But in the course of that, something happened called scouring, which is when a bottle-fed bison or animal is not getting those antibiotics and nutrients from its mother's milk. And so, it just gets a bacterial virus that usually causes them to get sick, and they, over the next 24 hours, usually die of dehydration. And so it happens really quick, it's really dangerous, and it kills a lot of bottle-fed animals. And so she was basically actively trying to die on me. And so I'm giving her shots of penicillin. I learned very quickly how to stomach feed a baby bison, which I had not done before. And, there was this moment of frustration where I couldn't figure out how to do it without choking her and suffocating her. And so I was really frustrated with myself. Anyway, it was really emotional and it was really hard. And during that process, when I was somewhere between penicillin shots and, stomach tubing this animal, somebody said to me, gosh, what you do is really hard. And I remember thinking yeah, that is what people should realize when they are eating food, whether it's vegetables, whether it's beef, whether it's elk that somebody had to go and hunt this season. Doesn't matter if it's a livestock animal, a bison, or a vegetable. Vegetable farmers and crop farmers, I feel like, have some of the hardest jobs and the hardest and biggest risk of any, food producer. It's all hard, and we should appreciate that and remember that when we are eating food. Wendell Berry says that eating is an agricultural act. We are all involved in agriculture because we all eat. And my thought was just that in this world of convenience, there's actually a pretty interesting book called The Comfort Crisis. Have you read that?
I have not.
But in this world of this desire for comfort and convenience, sometimes we don't have to do really hard things, physical or emotional things, we don't necessarily, or most of us don't have to go out and haul our water from the creek, or do our laundry on a washboard, and right. We have all these amazing, amazing technology to make our lives more convenient. And I think sometimes what happens is we lose that appreciation because it wasn't so hard to do, if that makes sense. We tend, as a general rule for humanity, if we don't work for something, or if something's not hard, or if it doesn't cost us something, we appreciate it less in general. Um,
I call that value too, that we've lost any
yeah.
appreciation for value, even if it's, a child understanding what the cost of something is, the value of something is, other than, hey, it's easy come, easy go. And I think we've lost that. And I think, to your point, certainly with the foods we eat right now, I'm traveling, so I'm at my in-laws' place, some family, and in the city, and where you and I live in Durango, Colorado, especially out on your ranch, and with me up in my mountain. There's no Uber Eats. There's no
No.
DoorDash. There's no food delivery services. And I think about this lifestyle, and thank God, because I know, both my all of my adult children, the working moms, couldn't get by without the opportunity to have everything delivered any longer, and it's very, very helpful. But when you have, teenagers standing in line at Starbucks on their lunch break, paying $10 for a cup of coffee, you kind of go, we're losing sight of the value of things. But I do love the appreciation for, or, that you actually holding a bison burger from, looking out the window and seeing the source, as opposed to a McDonald's hamburger, which that meat might as well be just from Mars. I don't think people give it any thought.
Yeah, and I think there's even an intrinsic value of being connected to nature, that there's been a lot of, I feel like, excitement or around grounding, just going outside and putting your bare feet in the dirt and grounding, and the research showing how good that is for us. And if you think about that, we're literally having to consciously go out and touch, like with our feet and with our hands, dirt, nature, something not fabricated by us. And I have to laugh to myself that, whatever, 50, 75, 100 years ago, if we had told people, in the future, we're going to have to consciously touch soil for our mental health, they would have been like, oh, what? But that's how disconnected we've come, right? And so there's this intrinsic value of just doing the work, and that stick-to-itiveness and that perseverance, that then when something happens, like I'm driving right before full dark, after the sun is set, and I'm driving right before full dark, and I can smell the land, and I see these, huge great horned owls, lit up by the sunset, that you're just filled with this intrinsic value of, this is important, and being connected to this life cycle is important. And that life cycle, I don't know this exact statistic anymore, but and you probably know it better than I do, but something like 70% of our national budget is on healthcare is spent keeping people alive in the last 5 years of their life. We hate death. We hate death. We fear it, we hate it, we resist it. And when you ranch or you work the land, death is a natural part of the work. Not necessarily human, which is very obviously different than, although sometimes, but not, than animal or animal death. But still, in this thing that I spend my time caring for, feeding, wanting to have this great life, dies in some manner, that is part of it. And even taking that life to give sustenance to my community is part of it. And it's the hardest part of it that I do. But I think we're meant to experience that and honor that circle of life, and that in that death, it creates more life. So that cycle isn't really complete. It's just transformed.
You introduced me to, you pointed out in the herd, one of the bisons that you had bottle fed, who was rejected by her mom. How different is that for you when you do form that bond, when you can point, look, I couldn't tell one of your bison apart from the other, but you sure could. I guess it comes with time. But the bottle fed baby out there is no longer a baby, a junior, right? Sort of a junior size.
Yeah.
What's that emotional tie like? Will you always protect and take care of that bison?
That's a great question. I do not name my animals. They are not pets. And I do not try to domesticate my bison, just for the audience. There's no,
Wait, you have
we do.
nicknames. You had a nickname
Well,
or
that
two.
I'm getting to that point, Mary. I'm getting to the
sorry.
exceptions.
Forgive me.
I'm getting to the exceptions to the rule. However, the general rule is we do not name them. But, we do not pull calves. They calve on their own. Realistically, they would kill me before letting me help them pull their calf. So there's no calving, pulling calves. There's no castration. There's no artificial insemination. There's no branding. There's no dehorning. I'm trying to think what else is. So all of the bison here are bison. They roam, they rut, they calve, they behave as bison. The exception to the rule is that bottle calf is named Petunia. And people ask me, like, will you kill Petunia? And Petunia is now, she'll be a coming 3-year-old in the spring. She has her own calf now, which is pretty cool. And she is about 1,000 pounds. And I tell people, one, she's my most dangerous animal because she's now a 1,000-pound horned bison that is not afraid of me. The rest of them, my 22,000 plus pound bulls, see me as the apex predator out here. So when I step towards them, they step away. That is not the case with Petunia. So I have to be very careful around her because she's a 1,000-pound horned animal and she doesn't know that she could kill me really easily. Also, people ask me if I will ever kill Petunia. And the very honest answer with that is, I don't know. I mean, yes, at some point she will. Yeah.
You don't have to answer
at
that
some point she will have to die. Yeah.
Besides,
we all die.
Joe Biden saying he wouldn't pardon Hunter. Let's not put you on the spot.
I mean,
will you or won't you?
Yeah. But the point is that she will die eventually, whether by my hand or by nature or whatever. She will. We all die.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully she keeps on having a calf for a while.
But talk about, I read a great article on your operation in the Durango Herald talking about the regenerative agricultural, what the buffalo do to the land. And how can you explain some of that? Because that's so fascinating too. Yeah.
And I will say, Alan Savory is a man who has a great TED Talk from 2013, if anyone wants to watch the sort of 15-minute abridged version of holistic management. But it's a decision-making framework that helps us manage complexity, including the complexity of agriculture and life and the land and the animals. But the bison specifically, when managed properly, have an incredible impact on the land, from the tilling of their hooves and the dung and the urine, giving the necessary moisture in such an arid climate to have, healthy soils, to the way they wallow. So roll, think like dust bath, like a chicken. But they roll and create these wallows that open up space for other grass species and will catch water for different birds. And they don't bed down in waterways or in lower areas. They still have that prey instinct where they want to be higher, when they're resting so that they can sense predators, and they're not going to hang out in a water area where predators might come also. So just a lot of really cool things like that I'll see. One thing that's really cool is the calves actually lick the dirt when they're first real young in that, first 6 months. And they are teaching their biome about the environment that they are in. So their biomes, like the microbiomes of calves, are actually learning and adjusting to where they are grazing and living, which is really pretty cool.
That's very cool. And how many bison do you currently have?
There are about 100 out here on this place right now. Sometimes it feels like a lot, and sometimes it feels like a little. Depends on what's happening.
What's your goal? 1,000? 500? What is your goal?
What is my goal? My goal is actually not, I don't have a specific number for you right now. If you were asking me what is the goal of the operation is to be a financially viable demonstration of regenerative agriculture. One, It's to produce thriving animals and thriving bison genetics and the best protein for my customers and my community. It's also meant to be a legacy, and legacy in that it's a demonstration of a pathway that the next generation can be in agriculture and be profitable and still have a good quality of life. There's very scary statistics on the percentage of our population that are about to age out of food production. And why would a young person want to get into agriculture nowadays where the narrative is you work 24/7 and you're broke your whole life, when they could work remote as a software developer or a web developer remote and make great money? Like, why would you do that? And so I think we need to change that narrative. It's vital that we change that narrative. So those are a couple just big goals of, and obviously to leave, for me, that's a full, we used to use the terminology a lot of like triple bottom line of the financial, social, and environmental impacts that are positive coming out of this place. And then to use this resource and this land as a resource and catalyst to just have deeper positive impact on the community, and in ways that are not necessarily tied to agriculture, but even just in alcoholism, addiction recovery, in giving access to, there's a lot of space out here. I'd love to give access to more women who want to do bees or pigs or gardening or things that I love and support, but just don't have the bandwidth to do everything by myself. So I'd love to give access to other women who want to venture on this journey. So we'll see. I'd like to build and create this just hub of activity of people and nature, and the bison thriving together.
I support that vision of yours, and I want to help you in any way I can. I love it. We have talked about
Mary.
that, the mental health component of being out there. You've talked a lot about camping on your land and the views, and I want to tag along on one of those. We ought to make a good, fun little, whatever Burning Man started like, and we never want to be that.
Yeah.
We want to be the first 10 people who are there at Burning Man.
Yeah, exactly.
And have something, and I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And as you know, I've enjoyed your bison. My husband and I sent you my recipe for bison bourguignon,
Yes.
which is a favorite in my family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
A good friend of mine who's hopefully listening to this, he calls it French stew, the beef bourguignon, bison bourguignon, French stew. But I hope, if anybody wants my recipe for bison bourguignon using Murphy Legacy Bison, just reach out to us at hello@sageleyspeaking.com and we will send you the recipe. We've also made fantastic meatloaf out of it. Sometimes we blend, here in Colorado, we've blended it with 50% bison, 50% venison. In Colorado, we do all sorts of things like that. I mean, so we were talking the other day about eating moose. That's a bridge too far for me. But in any event, so if you want bison bourguignon recipe, email me at hello@sageleyspeaking.com and we'll send it to you. But so where can people buy your meat?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you are in the Durango region, there's a couple different retail places in Durango, both the James Ranch Market, Sunnyside Meats. You can reach out to me directly at Sarah@Murphy Legacy Bison, and I will connect with you and do my best to get it to you wherever you are, direct to consumer. If you are on the Front Range of Colorado, Denver, Boulder area, there is a really cool company called Pine Melon, and they are a delivery grocer. You were talking about your friends who get delivery, food. They are a delivery grocer that aggregates product local to Colorado and then delivers to your doorstep. And they're doing really awesome work working with different growers and producers in the state of Colorado and then getting it to people's doorsteps in the Denver Boulder area. If you are outside of Colorado, it's really kind of tricky at this time. I do not ship meat yet. So if you are outside the state of Colorado, it works best usually to just contact me and we'll see if we can figure something out to get it in your hands. So, and also if you are visiting Durango, the historic Strader Hotel has a steakhouse called the Mahogany Grill. and their mahogany burger is also Murphy Legacy Bison. So that's pretty fun.
That is fun. Great
Yeah.
plug for Durango too. Come ride our train and eat our bison. And
yeah, absolutely.
and it'll be a great trip. I hate this question, but I have to ask you it. Sorry.
Yes,
is there
go for
anything
it.
that I didn't ask you that you want to talk about? And if not, that's fine too. But I think you are such a multifaceted person with so much to give and a great mentor and inspirational figure. What can I pull out of you that I didn't ask?
Yeah. Oh gosh, we could talk about so much for so long. I think I would just retouch on the fact that whoever is listening to this, whatever your desire or passion, whatever fuels that fire for you, it sounds very cliche, but the only, kind of regrets I feel like people really have at the end of their life are the things they left undone, and I love and I get a lot of fulfillment in helping other humans find pathways to build their dreams, even if it has nothing to do with what I'm doing. It gives me excitement and passion to help find bridges and find pathways and open those doors. So I guess I would just like to say it's always open invitation for creativity or discussion or partnership or collaboration, because I just feel like, especially in this world where we're highly divided, at the end of the day, I do think we all have very similar intrinsic values that we hold, and that it's really important for us to dig in at the community level and see what we can build and collaborate together for our local communities. So I don't know, I guess I just wanted to pitch that part as though, my passion is definitely land and bison, but at the end of the day, it's all about relationships and people.
So if you hadn't found the bison as your calling, what would it have been?
Oh gosh, well, I'm not dead yet, Mary. Who knows? Who knows what else I might do?
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the start. I actually think it probably would have been, I started a master's in social work. So I don't know, maybe it would have been more contribution to the, addiction and alcoholism world. Maybe it would have been something in, sort of community health, or I have this passion of addressing problems or challenges in communities at the root, not necessarily. I'll share this before you cut me off. But I heard this analogy once of that these people were sitting next to this river and they see two people floating by drowning, and they say, "Oh my gosh, they're drowning." They jump in and save them and pull them out. A couple minutes later, another person is floating down the river drowning, and they think, "Oh my gosh, we got to save that guy." They jump in and pull him out. And this continues through the whole day. And at no time did they think about walking upriver and seeing who was throwing people in the river, or why these people were falling in the river. And so I take that analogy, even looking at challenges that we have in our community, and think about how can we, prevent the people from falling in the river in the first place. So I just share that in kind of that is probably the work I would have done also. There's just more work on upstream.
Makes sense to me. Well, you were lucky in that you found the epiphany of the bison, because most people never have that moment in their life. They kind of plod through in their chosen career. And for you to have that opportunity, realize it and seize it and just rock it is just pretty amazing. So you're right, you're not done yet, and I can't wait to see all that is ahead for you for sure. And just want to thank you again for taking the time to allow me and my family, the grandkids, were out there on your truck, just seeing a sight that they would never see. And so thank you very, very much for that. And again, you want bison bourguignon, hello@salerspeaking.com. We'll send you that recipe.
Yeah.
And Sarah, I'm going to see you soon, and we're going to work on all these great ideas of yours. I've learned something in my life. I've learned that genius comes for people who are willing to work through the naysayers. That when everybody else tells you no, or you're not going to raise bison, and I'm adding the words young lady because we all get that
Yeah.
so often. Oh, young lady.
Yes.
Oh, young lady.
Yeah.
But that's what genius is the ability to stick to it, the tenacity, which I think is one of your favorite words, the tenacity of making your dream and vision come true. So I just want to thank you. Yeah, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Mary. I want to thank you also for your incredible podcast and the work that you do. And I know you're making a lot of impact in the world of addiction and, public health and for your community also. So thank you for your continued work.
Well, it's a labor of love, so thank you. But to our sponsors, thank you very much for supporting Sagely Speaking. Without you, we couldn't do what we do. And to you, my listeners, thank you so much for joining us. I know there's a billion podcasts out there, and with this one, there's probably a billion and one. But I hope you found as much inspirational conversation as I did with a wonderful, talented, brilliant Sarah Murphy, Murphy Legacy Bison. So until we meet again, be well.